hang on, right. Well, we're just getting some breaking news. The views of the Grey Matters channel have spiked by more than 2,000% and the number of subscribers by more than 700% in just a couple of weeks. Okay, so more about that later. And in a packed programme today, cancer figures show that half the population could get the disease, so we ask, why so many? Paula Vennells gives evidence to the Post Office inquiry and wriggles like a fish on a hook. And TV licensing, how one BBC reporter showed her true non-impartiality colours. I can't do this. Whose idea was all this? But, you know, we're not the news at 10, you know. Roll titles. Hello and welcome to Grey Matters, the channel that promotes the fact the older generation still matters and looks at issues that matter to the older generation. Now we've got 4 items in this edition. First up, a huge thank you to our 2,000 plus new subscribers gained in the past couple of weeks. You wonderful people have pushed the channel's views to more than 100,000. So a big thank you to you, and of course a thank you to our existing subscribers too. Now, if you watch programmes such as Stand Up to Cancer, you will have seen the shocking statistic that 1 in 2 of us will develop cancer. That's around 34 million people in the UK. Now that seems like a huge increase since I was growing up in the 50s and 60s, so what's changed? Well, according to Cancer Research UK, more than 3/4 of all people diagnosed with cancer in the UK are aged 60 and over. So they say the simple answer is that most of us are living longer, and that means there are many more cases in that age group than ever before. So by far the biggest risk, it seems, is simply getting old. And another reason for the apparent increase are the advanced methods they're using for cancer detection. However, I have my own theory about what could be a major factor. Back in the 50s and 60s, there was very little processed food about. Fruit and veg came from the greengrocer, meat from the butcher, and that was before the days of pumping steroids and hormones and antibiotics into the animals, of course. And even in supermarkets, back then it was mainly international stores and the co-op, ham and bacon were cut straight off the joint in front of the customer. There was little or no pre-packed processed meat available. Now, if we want to eat foods grown like they were in the 50s and 60s, we have to pay premium prices for organic foods without all those additives. In other words, I guess we're paying more for less. So what's your opinion on that? Is it just that we're living longer? Why do you think the cancer rate is so high these days? Do you have theories about microwaves, pylons, vaping? Let me know your thoughts. And let me just have a little rant about funding. In 2020, the US government gave $6.4 billion to the US National Cancer Institute. Now here in the UK, in 2019, our government spent a measly $1.6 billion, and that was for medical research generally. Cancer research just got a tiny amount of that. And at the time, the Chancellor, and I couldn't tell you his name, said he was committed to increasing that to 20 billion for medical research and development. And within that 20 billion, just 95 million was to earmark to deliver what the government called their life sciences vision. And that's where cancer research sits. So when 34 million of us are at risk, 95 million doesn't seem much of a commitment to me. And where's their incentive to invest? With hard-working charities and universities doing all the work for them using public donations. If it wasn't for the public, there would be little or no research at all, and that is deplorable. Paula Vennells gave her evidence to the Post Office inquiry a couple of weeks ago and must surely be the most reviled woman in the country. Despite her denials and frequent and convenient lapses of memory and her blaming other executives for all the problems, the inquiry revealed how deeply she was complicit in the cover-up of Horizon's flaws. But take a look at this clip posted by the Scottish Sun newspaper, in which she's challenged about an email in which she was advised not to review historical convictions as it would make the post office look bad in the press. But there's no way she was going to be let off the hook. Take a look.
Do you agree that his first point says you should make a decision about the extent to which you review possible past miscarriages of justice by reference to the extent of media coverage that it will generate?
It does say, it could be read that way. That wasn't my...
Is there another way of reading it?
That I wouldn't have...
And if there is, please explain which words help to read it in a different way.
You can almost hear the cogs turning as she tries to think of a way out of this.
He's saying don't go back 10 years or say that you'll go back 10 years. Our current approach would mean there's going to be some coverage, but not very much, the usual suspects. If we say we'll look back at past cases, we'll be on the front page. Isn't he directly saying?
Yes, I can see that's what he's saying, but my mindset at the time when I received this is that we were working on specific cases that were coming forwards, and we opened up...
No, hold on, Miss Vennells. The email that you had sent, to which this is a response, posits, should we look back 12 to 18 months since separation?
Yes.
Or should we go back further? Why aren't we going back further, 5 to 10 years? And this says, you can't do that. You'll be on the front page. That's a grossly improper perspective, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes.
And that wasn't the end of her humiliation. And she even broke down and cried 3 times. But were those tears for the victims or for herself? I'm sure we've all got a view on that. You know, more than 900 sub-postmasters and mistresses were convicted of theft, fraud and false accounting based on faulty Horizon data, with some being imprisoned as a result. Others were prosecuted and not convicted, but all were forced to cover those shortfalls caused by Horizon with their own money, losing their reputations, their livelihoods and their homes in the process. Now, all the money they paid back was put into a separate account, and then at some point in time it was paid into the post office's general profits, enabling senior executives huge bonuses. The subject of compensation rumbles on, but in my opinion that should be put aside, at least for now, because what the post office must do, and do now, is to pay back all the money taken from all those falsely accused victims. Give it back to them now, and to the surviving families of those postmasters who are no longer alive. And when that's done, then they should tackle the hugely complex issue of compensation. Just give the money back now. Well, it appears that TV licence payers are being openly exposed to the BBC's unimpartiality. Obviously, every TV presenter must have their own political views. Everybody does. The difference is that we can all openly display that bias, but newsreaders and presenters can't. Whatever their views, they should be kept under wraps, and they must behave in a way that complies with the rules on impartiality. Of course, we've all known the political stance for a long time. The mask has slipped all too often. But following a segment featuring a press conference by Nigel Farage, newsreader Geeta Gurumurthy let the mask slip as never before. Let's take a look at the clip, which was uploaded by GB News.
Having crossed the Mediterranean, and he has said that this is now a matter of national security.
Nigel Farage with his customary inflammatory language there at a Reform UK press conference. He declined to stand for a seat, but we will have more.
I don't think that was read from an auto cue. If it was, then that's a huge corporate black mark for the BBC. However, I suspect she just ad-libbed that outro, and it was the height of unprofessionalism. But a little while later, something quite extraordinary happened. she apologised.
Now an apology. Earlier today we heard live from Nigel Farage speaking at that election event we just saw, and when we came away from his live speech I used language to describe it which didn't meet the BBC's editorial standards on impartiality. I'd like to apologise to Mr Farage and viewers for this.
She really didn't want to give that apology, did she? Her face said it all. I can imagine the corporation's legal department went into meltdown, considering that the BBC's maligned Farage before over the debanking scandal, if you remember, and they faced a huge backlash. But you know, I have to ask, where was Ofcom in all this? Perhaps that hasty excuse for an apology was designed to head them off at the pass, leaving them free to continue their campaign against GB News and Talk TV. Well, thank goodness I'm licence free and I don't have to watch this garbage. And that wraps up this edition of Grey Matters. As always, thank you for joining us, and do let me know all your comments and thoughts about our topics today. If our channel floats your boat, then please subscribe and hit that bell to be notified of our future content, and please feel free to share. Thanks again to our wonderful subscribers for pushing our views up to over 100,000, and till we see you next time on Grey Matters, thanks for joining us again, and bye for now.